Let's bring in Smile Foundation co-founder Marc Lubner joining us to discuss the budget 2025 expectations. Marc, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, just looking at, your focus around transforming the lives of children affected by facial abnormalities and severe burns. I mean, that's your space. And we've just spoken, we speak on the back of concerns around the NHI, concerns mounting around tax increases. What are your expectations ahead of the budget speech?
Well, it was interesting that the Stoner comments from our president talked about investing, particularly in government healthcare. And I'd like to hope that what we might see in the budget is a set of incentives that are created for the private sector to support the NHI. I think there's universal acceptance that NHI is an absolute necessity. But how it's going to be implemented is everybody's question. How it's going to be funded, how is there going to be a service level delivery that looks at a best of breed rather than necessarily just a reduction in healthcare services to try and cater for the huge amount of demand that will exist. And I think the private sector has shown, particularly the growth that's taken place in private healthcare in recent years, that they have solutions and that those solutions could be taken to scale. My appeal would be that the budget, which is already set, necessarily that looks at incentives for private healthcare practitioners across all sectors to necessarily get involved and engaged. Everything from administration to the delivery of shared skills, which is a very important part of what the Smile Foundation necessarily looks to do in any case.
Yeah. As an NGO, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges you face on a day-to-day as we look to the budget speech?
Well, within the hospitals, what we seem to be witnessing are because of the huge demands that are being placed on a limited infrastructure. So first and foremost, infrastructure investment into the state hospitals is an absolute necessity. Maintenance is key critical. We saw what happened at Charlotte Maseka. And then very importantly, I'm not certain whether the administration, the powers that be, are aware of the incredible burden that's being placed on the medical fraternity, the amount of hours that they're being required to have to commit. And then yet we still expect a standard of service excellence that is almost impossible based on the demands that are being placed on doctors, surgeons, nurses. And I don't feel that, A, they're getting sufficient recognition or necessarily sufficient financial support.
As you speak about these demands, we know that one of the other major challenges is the imbalance in ratio when it comes to the number of doctors, the number of nurses, and the the budget being reduced. And a lot of doctors, more than 1,000 doctors, as you and I speak, Marc, are qualified, ready to work, but unable to get work.
Very true. I mean, the placements are, driven by driven by budgets. So the number of posts that need to be filled are certainly there. There's no shortage of vacancies that are required in many of these hospitals. Very often you speak to the heads of departments of surgeries, and you find that, typically they would want to be heads of departments so that they could involve themselves in advancing research, looking at new methodologies. They just simply don't have the time for that, simply because of the amount of pressure that they're under. I personally believe that that is a major flaw that the Department of Health is overlooking. We need to invest at not only the bottom end of the scale, i.e. New entrants into medical schools. We have to invest more significantly at the top tier levels so that we are able to fund posts enabling the individuals that have got the competencies to share their skills with others. Otherwise, we're going to find a massive skills deficit arising.
And very lastly, your work revolves around transforming the lives of children. What would you say you would like to hear in the budget speech insofar as children's livelihoods are concerned, children's challenges, and so forth?
It's a great question. And there are a number, there are dozens, ranging from education, nutritional support, safety within communities. These are, all key critical ingredients if you're going to raise a child in the environment that will lead to productive South African citizens. But one quick last thought. We, as a country, we're increasingly giving more and more social grants to a bigger proportion of the population who cannot find work. What about linking those social grants to actually work-related experience? So instead of giving an 18-year-old simply a social grant because they now reach the age where they warrant a grant, what about linking it to, even if it's menial jobs, the hospitals could certainly do with more cleaning staff, more support staff, more admin staff. And those are positions that I think could well be filled by individuals who are recipients of social grants. And that would help alleviate a lot of the pressure that otherwise trained medical practitioners are being forced to commit.